Hey, so I don't like painting armies. It's always a slog. When I don't want to do something, I either procrastinate or cheat. For my Nurgle, I did both. Our hobby has such a rich history of expertly refined techniques and processes. Layers and blends and tiny brushes was something that really appealed to me as a young hobbyist. Now, as a 20-something-year-old, I just want to make a mess. So that's what I did, and I had a blast and I painted every spare moment I had for the last 3 days. When my friend Riley describes my painting process, he always demonstrates it with like intense stabbing motions, which I think summarizes my whole painting mentality perfectly. Hack your way through the boring parts, take shortcuts, make a ruckus, and at the end, when things start looking like a real thing, take your time and clean up the parts that matter and forget everything else, because other people probably will too. What I love about this hobby is that we're all in it for different reasons, and for some people, that's to paint really well. But for me, at least at this point in time, it's to make something impactful. Something fun, something cool, something memorable, and something to make memories with. My hope is, when I put this on the tabletop, my opponents will get something out of it too. Even if it's just sore eyes from my obnoxious paint choices. I really wanted to try something new for this project, so instead of a typical brown or black wash that I normally go with, I instead went with purple, which I ended up really liking because it felt strange and stylized, and it felt so different to what I normally see. The purple wash was done with oil paints, which I chose because they work sort of like Citadel's contrast paints, just with a little bit more control and working time. They're seriously magic in the tube, and really cheap too. There's a few rules to using oil paints though, because much like real magic, they're volatile, and no one really understands how they work. That's only sort of a joke, so watch as many tutorials on them as you can, because everyone uses them differently and has different warnings about what not to do, and also a whole bunch of safety stuff. I love that they're so versatile. For this project, I made them into an incredibly thin wash that doesn't pool up and makes any crack or crevice filled with intensely rich color. And the look is super stylized, but it doesn't really have to be. That's just what really appealed to me. After a satin varnish, I added acrylic highlights as sort of a final push to make everything as crazy and as colorful as I could make it. This is the moment of any project that I stay up all night for, because after those last details, out of nowhere, you suddenly have a thing, an actual thing, and all the crust around the edges, the mishaps, the dodgy brushstrokes, they vanish, not because they're fixed or covered up, just because they don't matter anymore. Anyway, these are ready for the tabletop for some practice games, but they're far from done. I've got to paint some thematic details and do some banners yet. Oh, and obviously make some more models too. Or maybe I'll just repaint everything, depending on how I'm feeling. Either way, I'm having a blast, so I'll see you in a bit.